So we are at the hour mark, so I think we can get started since we do have a lot of really great questions for our fireside today. We want to make sure we get through all of them. And so again, welcome. Today's topic is starting the employee experience right, best practices for candidate and onboarding processes. I know it's a super popular topic in our community right now. We received lots of really great questions prior to this session today on this topic. And so all I can say is we have the perfect panelists today to tackle this topic for all of you. Just want to get started with some quick introductions. Today's session is brought to you by Bucketlist Rewards, the #1 employee rewards and recognition platform. And it's brought to you today in partnership with our friends from Deel and JazzHR. Deel is an all-in-one HR platform for global teams, and JazzHR is a powerful, user-friendly, and affordable recruiting software. And of course, now introductions about our panelists today. I'll start with me. Hello, I'm Rebecca. I'm your host and moderator for the session today, and I'm the community manager here at Bucketlist. One of my top passions is all about helping companies build happy and rewarding workplace cultures where employees can thrive and feel happy. I organize our community webinar program, and today just super excited to dive into this topic of hiring and onboarding with all of you. It's a topic that I find super important and near and dear to my heart, since a good hiring and onboarding process really just sticks with you in the years to come. And a bit about me outside of work, I like paddleboarding, hiking, reading, and enjoying the food scene in Vancouver. Ida, I'll pass it off to you to introduce yourself next.
All right, thanks, Rebecca. Hi, everyone. My name's Ida. I'm right now Associate Director at Deel. I've had numerous roles. Right now, I'm more focused on HR business partnership, but I've done various kind of roles in the people operations space, working from, I got to remember, like IBM to Uber to Impossible Foods to a small startup called Everytable. I've done a little bit in consulting and change management, and now I'm here at Deel. So I'm excited to talk about this topic. I think I've onboarded a lot of places, so I've gone through the candidate and onboarding experience, but also being on the other end of that in HR, you know, it's a really important thing that we do for team members or employees. On a personal side, I am very into health and fitness. And so a lot of times you'll find me talking about that or eating something interesting or telling you to drink more water and get more sleep. So with that, I will hand it over to, let's say, Jason.
Yeah, thanks, Ida. My name is Jason Lindstrom, and I'm the CEO over at Bucketlist Rewards. And I'm really passionate about helping companies build the best cultures in the world. My hope for today's session is that everybody who logs in can walk away with hopefully kind of 1 to 3 tips or takeaways. And then kind of personally on, I guess, the fun facts side, actually similar to Ida, I love health and wellness. I love that you can often find me out in the trails near my house doing a bunch of running. I could probably use your reminders, Ida, to drink more water instead of the coffee. And I'm just super excited to be here today. And maybe I can turn it over to Natasha next.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Natasha Molina. I am the manager of our people business partnership team over at Employ, which is JazzHR's parent company. I'm very excited to be here. My HR career, I started in recruitment, spent several years in there. So really looking at the bringing people in and getting them set up and started, did talent development for several years before moving into being an HR business partner and have been there for a while now. So what I would really hope everyone takes away from is really just getting those creative juices flowing. So hopefully we give you some ideas that really spark something that will work for your organization and really fit for you. And for fun fact, I might as well stay on the health and wellness train. I am a CrossFitter, absolutely love it. Lifting weights is one of my favorite things. The healthy eating and the water intake, a little more challenging, but definitely like to get up and get moving.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for sharing. And I see some fun comments in the chat as well. Jacqueline, I'm right there with you. If I am running, yeah, somebody's chasing me or like, I just have to do it. Awesome. So just a couple of really quick housekeeping items before we move into our fireside. So the chat box feature, one of my favorites during a webinar, and I'm sure a lot of you have found it already. But if it's a comment that you want to make sure everyone can see, please make sure your drop-down blue button thing is checked to everyone. And for the Q&A, we do have that Q&A feature turned on. And so if you have a question, feel free to pop it in that one just to keep it separate from all the other chats going on. We will be running a few polls during this, and so we'd love to hear what you think, and the answers are presented kind of aggregately anonymously. And the last thing is that we will be giving professional development credits at the end of this webinar, and it will also be sent out via email after the event along with the session recording. Awesome. So first things first, we love to kick things off with a fun little icebreaker. So in the chat, please let us know what are some awesome examples of candidate experience or onboarding initiatives that you've seen. And this could be something that you've put in place, you've seen others put in place, or something maybe you've experienced personally that stuck with you from previous experiences. Natasha, I see you smiling there. Do you have an example you want to share?
Sure, absolutely. So I think one of the things that I absolutely love from an onboarding experience is giving people a buddy. So I'm a huge proponent of the buddy system. Give a new hire someone that they can reach out to if you're in person.
I think we might have lost Natasha.
Looks like there's some good feedback from the attendees around loving the buddy system, though. And Ida, I see you have some commentary, but it looks like you might be muted.
Yes, I was just saying such brilliant things and nobody heard it. It's a shame. No, I'm kidding. I was just saying, well, is this what, by the way, is this question for us? I should know the answer to this. Sorry, I thought it was like we're just looking in the chat, but Natasha was speaking about buddy, which I think is true.
Yeah, 100%. That's something we do actually at Bucketlist. And to your point, Ada, it looks like a bunch of people are answering in the chat window as well. And there's a bunch of great commentary I'm seeing there too, Becca.
Yeah, swag. Oh, I see swag for sure. I think swag's a really good idea.
Yeah.
The welcoming gift, mentors. Oh, I'm a huge fan of mentorship as well. Their favorite snack.
Yes. There's something about knowing someone's favorite thing and then giving it to them. It really shows you've made the effort to try to get to know them. But sorry, Ida, I cut you off there.
No, there was one I really liked. From D, we have a DIB ambassador that also reaches out to them. That's really cool. Oh, I don't know if I'll say this later, but I guess it doesn't matter. But one thing that's really cool that that I'd never seen that we did at Deel is that the CEO does a voice recording and welcomes every single person that joins the team. So
that's awesome.
I don't know if we get to like 200,000 people, I'm not sure if he'll continue to do that, but it's great for now. I was very surprised. I was like, wait, at first I was like, did I do something wrong already? It's just day one.
No, that's an awesome example. And someone here, Shritika, wrote time when your new manager and team makes time for you. That's so true, just because everyone's like super busy. And so I personally sometimes feel like it's hard to reach out, ask questions, but then when someone makes the time for you and reaches out proactively and tries to talk to you, make time for you, ask if you need help, that makes me feel very warm inside. Awesome. Well, I know Natasha sort of dropped off there. I think she might be having some technical difficulties, but we'll carry on slowly and have her join us back on. So I just want to go over the agenda really briefly. So we've broken this fireside chat down into 3 different parts. So the first part, we want to talk about the impact and ROI that good candidate experience and new employee onboarding can have on your organization. We also want to move into some trends and challenges around tech-driven solutions when we're building that culture of connection. And lastly, I know this is something that a lot of you have been asking for. We're going to end off with some strategies and best practices to help build that human-centric employee journey that just starts from day one with the hiring and the onboarding. And of course, we'll wrap everything all up with the credits, key takeaways, and the Q&A. Awesome. So then we'll start off by launching this poll. If I can find my polls. Perfect. Does this look launched for y'all, Jason and Ida?
Yep.
Did?
Awesome. Perfect. So as people are answering, we just wanted to throw in this question to help contextualize the discussion today, just so we know where our panel could be focusing a lot of attention on and examples we bring up. So we appreciate all of you who are voting. I'll keep this poll open for another 20 seconds so that Ida, Jason, y'all can see the answers as well as our community. But right now, in first place looks to be onboarding, which is awesome because we had planned to talk a lot about that.
We
All
can't,
right.
just so everyone knows. So hosts and panelists cannot vote. We're not skewing anything.
Yeah, time to make like 10 fake accounts and awesome. So I'll close the poll now and I will share results. Perfect. Can all of you see this? Awesome. So on top looks to be onboarding and then employee engagement, retention, recognition. Offhandedly, Jason, Ida, does any of these kind of topics surprise you? Is there anything kind of you're leaning towards here?
I would only say I'm really excited to see the onboarding one got a lot of attention because I feel like there's some really great comments we'll hopefully be able to share from our side on that topic. But no curveballs from my point of view. Ida, anything?
I'm just surprised to see offer management as so low. I just feel like that takes it takes so many people, at least the way I think of it, because it's your hiring manager who's involved. It's the comp team. It's usually the talent acquisition or recruiter that's in there, or it could be a department leader. So there's often a lot of people involved, and yeah, so and then they're just getting the contract and offer out, all the administrative pieces. So I feel like that requires a lot of attention.
Totally. Awesome. Well, then with that, we shall move on to our first question. So I'll pass this one to Ida first, actually. So Ida, how have you seen candidate experience or employee onboarding initiatives positively impact a business's bottom line? And it'd be super great if you could also share a story or example along with it.
I'll see if a story or example comes to me, but I mean, the first thing that comes to mind to me is just the speed of ramp time. There's so much paperwork and compliance that you have to do in advance. And so where you can kind of get things started in advance and have that all done beforehand will save you a lot of time when the person starts. And that, I guess, translates to productivity and making the most out of the person when they're there, which can have an impact on the bottom line. And then just having a really positive experience. So not only from the time you're, recruiting, and then to the time you start, to the offer process, to the communication with the with your, like, usually it's the recruiter at first or the hiring manager. I think that is so important. And I had a very positive one for Deel. Like, yes, of course I'm biased, I'm there, but I guess the story I'll share is I just felt like I was communicated with through the entire time. Sometimes there's points where you're like, you feel bad kind of checking in. You're like, I don't want to seem too desperate here, but am I going to get a response on this? What's going on? And there's just like this gap in communication, and that can paint a bad picture for, I think, a team member on what they're getting themselves into and how communications work in the organization. So that to me also has sort of the indirect impact of allowing for, okay, if you have a really positive experience coming on board, you will then, through word of mouth, or through putting on Glassdoor, you'll start to share, I had a great experience, even for people who maybe don't end up joining the company or maybe don't get an offer. From a candidate standpoint, they'll still share what their experience was like. So I think that's free marketing, free word of mouth on that end, and that can directly impact the bottom line. And then I guess the last point I'll make is onboarding globally. So yeah, Deel, we can onboard globally from anywhere, and that really allows for you to get different kinds of workers into the organization. And transparently, different parts of the world pay differently. And so if you're thinking about it from a budget aspect, you can get great talent from other parts of the world, or it doesn't just have to be the US. And that's just kind of how comp works, but it does allow for you to say, okay, where can I have workers? What kinds of workers can I bring on? How can I bring them on and still get, great talent just from different places?
Amazing. You bring up so many good points there with the glass door, which I know a lot of people often talk about, as well as that onboarding globally, since the world is so distributed now. So that's an awesome point to make. Jason, I felt like I saw your mouth move, but then I started talking. So please go ahead.
Oh, no, I think that's some really good commentary. We actually, it's funny you mentioned the global workforce. We're kind of partnered with Deel, but at the same time, we use the Deel product, and it has, I know this wasn't an intent probably to talk about Deel, but we use the product, huge fans of it. It certainly has made onboarding employees all over the world like a breeze. But if I was to share my 2 cents on this question, I think when you have a great candidate experience, you can see it, you can indeed see it in the numbers. But when you talk to a new employee, you can hear it in their voice. Some numbers that I really care about is we survey new team members on the 30-day mark and a bunch of other times. And I really care about that score because I feel like it's a company's first impression. And like if somebody has, just like anywhere else in life, if you make a great first impression, they're more likely to be engaged and excited about the entire employee journey. And another number I care about a lot is voluntary turnover, because I think there's nothing worse than losing an A player. And then in terms of storytelling and some of the things we do to hopefully craft a good candidate experience, we share our company vision even before somebody joins the company. We use a process called the painted picture. It's kind of like we use storytelling. We paint like a really vivid picture of the future. And we talk a lot about how somebody's specific role can impact the overall company. But the idea is it gives people a chance to get a sense as to how they'll contribute to the company, but also how the company is making the world a better place. And then to switch gears and talk about something really tactical. We also try to, like Ida said, we try to do a really good job with communication. So just for example, we shared the first day agenda. So a new employee, before they start, there's often a lot of trepidation and fear. I read 2 stats recently that I thought were pretty compelling. One, around 29% of employees feel unsupported during the onboarding process. And the second stat, which is even more shocking, 23% of new employees cry during the first week. So like that's like obviously you don't want to have that experience, but a lot of people are having this experience in the companies they work for. So the first week really matters. Providing context, good communication really matters, and it's something we've doubled down on. And then as Natasha said earlier, we actually use a work buddy system as well, because a lot of times the team lead might be really busy in meetings and whatnot. And it's so cool having like a work friend. You can ask if you're in office, you can ask, where the bathroom's at, or maybe just get help and feedback on some logistical questions. So those are just a few of the things we do internally to try to create a really great first impression with new employees. And I see Natasha is back. Very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I apologize for that. We are hybrid workforce. And one of the exciting things about being in an office is sometimes our network goes down. So made it back joining in from my phone, but really glad to jump back into the conversation. And so excited about this. Completely agree, Jason. The buddy system is so fantastic. I also really feel like, driving engagement really builds that positive culture. So in order to have that great candidate experience and that employee onboarding experience, you really want to make sure that you are driving engagement from day one or even before that. So we know that a lot of employees will leave a company within that first 90 days. They come in, they look around, they have a couple of weeks, they have that crying experience, and that's not where they want to go. But that really hurts companies' bottom line, because every time you have that sort of turnover, you're spending a minimum of a third that person's salary. So if you have a revolving door, that's money that's just out the drain. Better to invest in those engagement programs and really make sure that everyone's getting what they need.
Well, thank you, panelists. And I know Carla earlier in chat was saying that this is a topic around ROI and onboarding and hiring is something that she would like their organization to get really nailed down. So I think that's a perfect segue into our next question about how should organizations be measuring the ROI of their investment in candidate experience and the onboarding process? And Natasha, I know you just got back, but I will pass this question over to you.
No, absolutely. I love this one. But you really want to measure that retention through the engagement. So whether that's through engagement surveys or seeing the extra activities that people sign on to. Do you have a wellness program that's going? Who's coming in? Who's showing up? Who feels comfortable and confident that they can? Really just making sure that you are getting that feedback and keeping an eye on those things. Also, stay interviews, I'm a huge proponent of, especially in a candidate or an employee's first 30 days. So one thing that we've implemented is those onboarding surveys. We're checking in with people on their first day, at day 30, at day 60, at day 90. We're making sure they hear from the team, make sure that they have everything that they need, whether it's tools for just being able to log onto a computer, or if it's another experience, something we need to know about their people leader, whatever that looks like. We're giving so many points for that contact in order to make sure that that is a smooth experience.
Yeah, little things are just so important. Like we always think about, oh yeah, what is, your role? But then little small things like, did you receive your computer? Does logging into these things work for you? It's just all adds to experience. So I love that you mentioned that.
Yes.
And Ida or Jason, would you like to chime in here?
Yeah, I can share my 2 cents on this one. So I've read engaged employees are 87% less likely to leave their company compared to employees with low levels of engagement. And as I mentioned earlier, we survey employees on the 30-day mark. We also do twice annual surveys as well to go deeper. One is an employee net promoter score, and then we do a deeper employee engagement survey also on an annual basis. And then some of the best feedback, though, comes in 2 other formats. We have weekly one-to-ones between all team leads and their reports. And those sessions are traditional one-on-ones where they get to do updates and whatnot. But we have a rolling question that gets asked every week, which is on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing? And I think it's a really revealing question, because very quickly you can see, like, if somebody's on average a 7 or an 8, and they're like that for weeks on end, and they suddenly drop to a 4 out of 10, as a team lead, I think you're in a really good position to address that. You can ask them, hey, what's wrong? Can I remove barriers? Can I help you? And then something else I do, which is a bit similar to that, and similar to the idea that Ida mentioned, is I try to do, I meet with all new employees right around the 1 month mark. And it's a mixture of formal and informal questions, but I love to check in, like, how did you find the onboarding? Do you have everything you need to succeed in the workplace? How has the experience been from your point of view? And then most importantly, is there anything we can do better? And in those sessions, I get to kind of put my hand on the pulse of how we're doing from the onboarding point of view. The only downside of that is I don't know how scalable it is, as we're adding a bunch of new employees. Like that idea, Ida, you mentioned earlier, of sending out a voice clip could be pretty darn appealing as well. But I thought that was a really helpful way to grab a bit more qualitative feedback. That's kind of my 2 cents. Anything to add from your point of view there, Ida?
Yeah, I agree with everything everyone's said. My brain's kind of going now. I'm like, well, on all of these, you can do a survey. So I saw a question in the chat, like, what do you ask on day 1? Yes, doing onboarding surveys and checking in. When I think about day 1, just to sort of answer that, Kelly, it's usually about getting oriented, getting your laptop going, making sure like you understand how your payments are going to be, getting any kind of required trainings, things of that nature. So if you see a question, often it's going to be things like, how was your first day? How was orientation? Do you feel like there are things that could have been done better? As you get into like the 30-day mark, it's like questions will start to be, and I think it's good to check on this. It's more of like, how was your overall first month? Are you clear on your role and responsibility? Do you see how your role kind of indirectly ties to the company and its mission, or directly? So those are some things there. Sylvia, I love what you're saying about just make sure the person's not alone. I think that is really important as well. Checking in with them, making sure sometimes they're like, I need some time to, I think it's being a balance. So sometimes I've seen teams put too much on somebody's first day. So it's like check in, but then give them some time to kind of get ramped. They don't necessarily want to be back to back their first day or really their first week. So make sure they don't feel alone, but don't overwhelm them. I think that's finding a fine balance between those two things. Also really making sure, so we talked about surveys and all of this, the input that we're hearing from the panelists, making sure managers are also equipped. Like, yes, there's a survey, but are they, I think, Jason, you mentioned, are you having a weekly check-in or check-in your first day? That's something I've done for when I onboard people. It's like every day we have a touch point, but at the same time, I'm like, if we don't need it, we don't need it. I just want you to have that opportunity to be able to, for us to have time. But I get, if you're like, I'm good, thank you, time to answer any questions they have, or just check in on items. So making sure managers are also just being like, how are you feeling? How is it going? So really equipping them to do that. I'll end with kind of a, I don't know if I'll say an interesting study that is very old, but we talk a lot about when it looks at what are you measuring, like looking at retention obviously is something that can tell you a lot in terms of the investment, how quickly are people turning over and at what time, but also looking at your customers, like what is the customer satisfaction? I think that's really important as well. And some of you may have learned this, I don't know, in school, if you went to business school, this is old, but there's something called the employee customer profit chain. And they did this case study at Sears in 1998, and it still holds true today, but really like the concept behind it is that it says, if you have happy customers, there's usually a direct tie to this, to your employees or your team members in the organization. So happy employees, happy customers, and then that leads to greater profits. And yeah, so just for the Sears example, I'll share on this one, they saw an increase in both customer satisfaction and profitability. So over a course of 12 months, their employee satisfaction rose by 4% and their customer satisfaction by almost the same amount, which was 4%. And then when they looked at what this translated to in terms of revenue, it was 200 million in additional revenue. And it also increased their market capitalization. So there are ways to tie this to the bottom line, but I just share it as another kind of thing to look at, like how are your customers doing? Yeah, anyway, I'll wrap with that.
No, that's awesome. And I love all this talk of surveys. We're seeing a lot of questions in the chat right now with it. And I know this question is talking about ROI. And so I think one of the previous questions that came in was around, what are some of, in your experience, all of you panelists, what is the best survey questions to ask to help yourself and your organization understand employee engagement and people feeling belonging and satisfaction in, the first year or the first 90 days? Do you have any suggestions on questions people could think about adding?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know with us, for our stay interviews, especially when we're giving an employee or a candidate someone one-on-one to talk to, the biggest one that we ask is, hey, did this meet your expectations? So we gave you a job description, you went through a recruitment process, we told you everything. Is this what you thought you were signing on for? And that really helps us determine where we need to put a little extra time or look a little closer at, or where we're doing really well. So highly recommend that one.
Plus one, I think I said this like just a little bit ago, but I was talking more about, do you understand, are you clear on your role and responsibility? And so it really ties together great with that question, Natasha. It's like, are you clear on it? And is it what you expected?
And then, sorry, sidebar, Ida and Natasha, those are excellent questions. The only thing I would add is I read this book called Zone of Genius recently, and it talks about like getting people to do the things they love to do and are really good at. And I've been asking people how much time are they spending on things that they love to do and are indeed really good at, because I've seen a direct correlation between happiness and doing those activities.
Oh my, well, okay, so so there is a lot. Okay, so I'm trying to think of how to explain this, but you got me excited for a second. one of the things at one of my previous companies that they ask, and it is true, it's really looking at your strengths and understanding what you're good at and what gives you energy and what depletes your energy. So oftentimes, and I think asking that and having that conversation, somebody may be good at something, but it's not what they enjoy doing. So it really depletes them. I'll give an example for me. I am very process oriented. But if you give me, so I can plan out a process and approach, but if that's all I'm doing, I get a little bit like down. I'm like, no, I want to do something more creative and strategic. I don't want to just like outline processes all the time and execute on a process. So it's really, I think it's a good thing, like knowing your strengths, understanding what gives you energy, and having that conversation early on, so you can kind of, it goes into career development. Like, how can I help you find those opportunities and help you like show up as your best self and be engaged in your work?
Yeah, sorry. We could probably do a super deep dive on this, but that was a really good example. I think what we're kind of tapping into is like, if you understand what you just said, Ida, like what people love to do and are passionate about, like that's your opportunity as a leader to unlock somebody's like unlimited potential. Like they'll do that thing forever, hope potentially even for free, because they have so much passion around it. And it's all about getting people into that zone, which is like this magical place. But yeah, I don't want to deep dive on that topic because I know we have a bunch of other good questions we can cover as well.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. I think it's just when employers, managers bring those sort of conversations up, it really helps the employees feel that they're being cared for and that the managers are really invested in them as like a whole person. So I think that's an awesome question to add as well. Great. So moving on. Next question here. We want to add something around, the trends and challenges, just because we know every company has its own tech stack, and because technology is always constantly evolving, we thought it'd be super interesting to have a question around how we're all using technology to help with the employee journey. And so, Jason, I'll pass this question to you first. But what are some interesting trends or challenges you've seen around leveraging tech-driven solutions to help build culture?
Yeah, no, really, really good question, Becca. I'll talk about the trends piece that I'm kind of seeing across organizations right now. And it ties to a comment Brandon made earlier in the chat window. First, I think a lot of companies are still figuring out how to build culture when a lot of staff are remote. And another huge trend is that a number of industries and companies are really still struggling to recruit and retain good staff. I think technology can be a great way to address both of those issues. But when it comes to recruiting and retaining good staff, just for example, you can often use technology solutions like a rewards and recognition platform, which are all about taking good care of staff. And from my experience, a rewards and recognition program can lower voluntary turnover by as much as 40%. And it can really drive up employee engagement as well, more than 25%. And it's something that you can plug into all your favorite channels. So for example, recognition happens really naturally inside of chat tools. It happens really naturally inside of communication tools like email. So you can plug it into those types of tools. And a lot of the times there's kind of like quick wins that you can deploy. Like if you're using Slack or MS Teams, you can create a new channel called Appreciation, where all staff can be invited into and recognize one another. So there's all sorts of cool things you can do and all sorts of quick wins you can do to leverage technology to help companies address some of the bigger pain points they're seeing and feeling. And that's kind of my hot take on this question.
Totally. And Ida, would you like to?
Yeah, I'll share. So I think I'm at Deel now, and everything is remote. So we are like a remote company. So it's really, there's an assumption that you sort of are able to easily connect and adopt technologies, use technologies, you have access to them. But I also want to recognize that there are, like I saw somebody is in the healthcare or nursing industry. You have nurses, you have people who are in manufacturing facilities. So I'll start with something we did around culture when I was at Impossible Foods, actually, because we had individuals constantly in the manufacturing plant. And so they have different shifts and whatnot. And so it seems simple, but we leverage Zoom and like cameras and technology to help to make them feel a part of the overall community. We had an all hands every week, and not everyone could join all the time, but we made it so that at the plant, this was a time where individuals could leave, go into like a room and join in on this and feel sort of, they'd be together. They're not just like on the, like in the plant doing work per se, but they're able to also join with like the headquarters and see what's going on. And that really helped to kind of, I guess, fuse our cultures, because often you'll see this separation between like corporate or headquarters and people who are on the front lines doing that kind of work. So that's like a kind of, I don't know, a little bit of a duh in terms of technology. But the other thing I'll say, being at Deel, like we use, I don't know if I'm not meaning to shout out Slack, but we use Slack for everything. And it's like a really great way to connect other tools to what we use. So everything is connected through that. You get reminders. And one of the things that is part of our culture is Slack is our office. It is definitely a bit of a learning curve. I will be honest, when I first joined, I was like, wait, we don't use email? Is this not a thing? And yet we'd use it for some things, but a majority of our work is done through Slack. And it's sort of just become how we communicate. And later on, one of my colleagues, Dan, will come speak, and I share a story of like Dan and I, if you see us interact, the first time we interacted together, if you were someone who was watching, you would think we'd known each other for quite a bit of time. And really, it was the first time we had ever met on like in person, because we're always like using Slack and communicating. And so we kind of built this rapport and this connection without really ever truly meeting. So anyway, that's a cool way to leverage technology and make it part of your culture, or use it to engage and interact more frequently.
Awesome points. And I see some comments in the chat as well, saying that, Jacqueline says they use Slack for everything as well, love as a company, and they find that it helps bring down email by 90%, which is, yeah, that's cool to see.
Yeah, it does. I mean, something I found is really interesting. It definitely does. But with email, when you're like in email, all of a sudden your mindset is like, I need to be formal and well written. But when you're in Slack, it's just, I like that. It's like, it's okay. Like, just say like, hey, I have a question really quick, or you don't need to be so formal. And so it allows things to move forward more quickly. And you're not so much in this thinking of like, am I writing this the right way? I mean, yes, you need to be mindful of that. There's still communication, standards and norms you want to adhere to, but it does remove this like formality and allows you to move more quickly and just get things done without feeling like it has to be super proper and put together.
Yes, with all the GIFs and the emoji reacts that have little like meanings onto themselves, it just makes everything super fun, and just, yeah, really helps build that culture. And when someone's onboarding, they can really see what the culture is like through the way you communicate too. So that's really cool. And sorry, Natasha, love to pass this question off to you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I agree with everything that's already been said. We're on Teams now instead of Slack. That was a huge transition. So very different. No, it's exactly the same. One of the other tech solutions that we use is called Tramp, which I absolutely love, but gives us that opportunity to give feedback to anyone in the organization, to be able to really link into each other, to have that. So celebrations on Teams, to have those very public facing ways to really just make sure that we know and understand our employees. So those are always great ones. I am a huge proponent of really building culture. The best way to do it is to get your input from your employees. What do they want? What do they like? What can we do better? What are we working towards? So really just asking those questions. And then again, for us, Culture Amp has been really helpful, but there are so many solutions. I also saw a question in there of, have you ever had an HRIS system put in place that did not go well in getting employee input or employee engagement? And yes, that is definitely something. Change management is a challenge I think everybody has to deal with. And so really, I call them propaganda campaigns of just trying to really get people excited, giving them little pieces of it, really showing them what it can do. And I always try to make those conversations start with, this is how I'm helping you. This is why this is better for you. This is what's going to make your job easier. And if you tell them, oh, this is just to make your life easier, they'll at least listen. And that can really help start that conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I know we have tons to talk about for this, but I want to make sure we saved a lot of time for the last question, which I think is the juiciest. So we'll be moving on now. Last question for the day. We did receive a lot of questions around strategies. And so I thought it'd be good for us to start with a super broad question and then dive into the really specific ones that people have for us. So Ida, I'll pass this one to you again, but what are your top do's and don'ts when it comes to building human-centric employee journeys?
Okay, let's see. A big do for me would be just, and we've talked about this already, is allowing time to integrate and acclimate to the environment. And I think we hear a lot, like, how do we increase time to productivity? Yes, there's things you can do tactically, like getting the paperwork done in advance, making sure they understand that, like, how to use their technology and things like this, making the role clear, but it takes time to build relationships. It is not something that you can speed up. 6 months minimum. Think about, relationships you build outside of work. It's just something that takes time. It can't be rushed. You can get to know someone, you can connect and click with someone really well, but that is time. That is something that does take time. And I think not only allowing them to take the trainings, but allowing them to connect with other people and to just have conversation and talk is really, really important. So I would say make sure to do that. I can keep going, but I can also, I'll come back to me and I'll allow one of my panelists to speak and share one of theirs.
Perfect. Jason, do you want to go next?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of my top do's is just to share the company vision early and provide updates often. It's really cool, I think, for employees to see what a company's up to, what the impact is, but also to see progress in the right direction and to be a part of that journey. And one other one is to always try to make room for or encourage one-to-ones between team leads and employees. There's I think a great saying where companies will join a company because it has a cool brand, but they quit due to poor leadership and poor management. So you always want to have processes and systems in place to encourage meaningful connection between leaders and staff. But maybe I'll flip it over to Natasha to go next.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of my biggest don'ts is really just a lengthy and cumbersome application process. So really utilizing different tools or whatever that you need to ensure that really the application process is user-friendly, it has clear instructions, minimal barriers. That sets the tone for the entire employee experience. So the very first impression that they get from you is that this is somewhere that is really going to just streamline everything that it can and really thinks through and values their time, their input, whatever that looks like. So that's one of my biggest ones.
Awesome. These are some really great do's and don'ts. I had a follow-up question submitted earlier, actually, and I think.
Sorry, I don't mean to, I just want to follow up. I want to follow up on what Natasha said, because it's really important in terms of an overall do, and I actually heard Jason too say it too. So I guess it goes without saying, have a general approach and plan and for your onboarding from candidate to first day, from being like a candidate signing to your first day to onboarding. But this impressions come very quickly. It takes maybe 2 days, maybe 2 hours to form an impression. But it takes almost, and it's around this, I don't know if there was a study I looked at, a couple of years back, about 2 years to change that. So if someone has a negative, like, first couple of days, and then from then on, things are better, they're still going to hold that with them. And so it's just so critical to put the time and thought into it and to invest upfront in creating a positive experience, because it provides so much, like, value longer term. So I just wanted to kind of, you reminded me of that as you were both speaking, like, first impressions really are important.
No, that's awesome and totally true. I feel like 2 days, but maybe it's even during the candidate process when you start talking to them, everything really matters. Awesome. And so I wanted to bring up this one follow-up question that was submitted prior, and Ida, you'll be so happy because I think this is kind of related to offer management, so maybe you'll want to take this one first. But someone asked, how can you make sure the recruitment journey is nice, not only for those who are selected, but also for those who aren't selected? I'll pass this to Ida first.
Oh, me? Does anybody else have? Did anybody else?
I would be happy to jump in. I love this question. I was already on the edge of my seat. No, I think it's so important. A lot of companies don't think about the experience they're giving to the people they rejected. We think about the employees that we bring on, but remember that when you make an offer, sometimes they turn it down. You want to make sure that your second and third choice candidates have a good experience so that if you want to go back to them, they still want to come work for you. And you don't have to go through that whole recruitment process again. There's so many times where you have interviews and there's two people that are phenomenal, and it really comes down to the smallest thing. So treating that second candidate with respect and really just communicating out. A lot of companies will disappear, they'll ghost you, so you don't hear from them again, or you'll get a very standard form letter, we've decided to move on. Even something like a template that just has a more personal feel of, hey, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. We really want to thank you that you were interested in our organization, your company. We would love to hear from you again in the future. And we're not just saying that, it's not just lip service, but really making sure that you are having those follow-ups and that you're not just sweeping them out the door. The other part is candidates who have a bad experience will tell other people that they had a bad experience. And so you're not just losing one person, you're losing their entire network. And that's always something to keep in mind.
Totally. Sorry, Natasha, if I could double down on one of the points you said. You talked about don't ghost. Our head of HR and people and culture here, Katie, has a no ghosting rule. So like everybody who goes into the process gets a response, whether it's a yes or it's a no. We've weirdly had a lot of positive responses, both from the yeses and nos, because at least it closes the loop for everybody. And you're right, like that's a big part of your employer brand, right? Like whether people enjoyed meeting with you or not. And even if they didn't get selected, like just closing the loop on that piece is super important. And then one other comment too, Natasha, that I thought you made that was great is a lot of times you hire hopefully the best candidate, but like something we're big fans of is creating a huge virtual bench. Because a lot of times the number twos, which might be so close to being recruited, you could recruit them in the future, and just creating a big virtual bench of candidates that you can hire into the future. That's been a great source for us for bringing good people into the organization. And it's also reduced our hiring window as well. So anyways, really good points.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just going to reiterate, like when you're recruiting, you're building your own talent pipeline. And as a hiring manager, as a recruiter, like this is you looking at, there's a lot of candidates, they may not fit a particular role now, and they may fit one later. And so you want to be really mindful of that. Yes. New people say things after. So if they're leaving and they're like, you know what, I didn't get it, but I just felt like the whole process was so great. I was, communicated with, I was well respected. That leaves a very positive impression, and they'll share that afterwards. One thing that I remember for me that's coming up is, I don't know what company it was, but went through the process, didn't get an offer, but they were like, they sent out a mate, like, we really appreciated your time. We really like it, so many good qualities, And then I took a survey. It's like, we want to know how your experience was, what feedback you have. And I think that's really awesome, just to be like, oh, okay. I mean, whether it's positive or negative, like allowing them to share their feedback and have input is something I think that you can do for candidates.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for sharing. Is there anything that any of you want to add before we hop on to the wrap up portion with the key takeaways and everything? Any comments we want to shout out from the chat?
Please, Susan, please don't use the word unfortunately. Thank you. It's the worst when you read it. But also what's coming up for me, like when people don't get thank you emails or they don't hear back, like I feel like we've all been in this place where I'm like, what you're not gonna even just can someone just tell me, like, did I get it, did I not? Like, it's just so important to communicate, and I think we forget that sometimes when you're on the other end. But I always try to put myself in the shoes of being the candidate and those thoughts that go through your head. And we were like, hello, like, can you just tell me I was rejected if I was?
Awesome. Well, we'll move on to today's key takeaways. And so we actually received a really awesome question prior to this that I think is the perfect prompt for today's key takeaway. And so the question is, I really just need to hear how to make the new employees experience a great one. If you could tell employers one thing to do to help improve their onboarding process, what would it be? Natasha, I'll throw this one to you first, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I've said it several times, so have Jason and Ida, but really communication is key. It's free, it's easy, you don't really need to think about it. Again, that can be something as simple as template emails that just get back to people, or especially in that time between hire and onboarding, before someone starts, there could be a 2-week period where all of a sudden they're getting attention from other companies or whatever that looks like. So to really build that relationship and start even before day one, communicate, reach out to them, make sure that we're still talking to them, make sure that they're getting excited, anything that they might need to know ahead of time. All of that wraps into having that really great experience for both your candidates and your employees. So communication is key.
Jason?
Yeah, the one I'm a big fan of is just creating a consistent process for the onboarding experience. So taking the time to break it down onto its very small steps and see where you're doing a good job and maybe something that could be improved, and obviously creating a really great first impression throughout the whole journey. So just mapping it out, creating a consistent process is my big takeaway from today.
Amazing. Ida?
Yeah, it kind of goes off of Natasha a little bit. It's integrating them from before they even start. Like I had such a positive experience in a couple of companies where, and Deel. So shout out to my team out at Deel, but they really, brought me in even, weeks before I started. I felt so connected and part of the team already, just reaching out, sending an email and saying like, hey, we're excited for you to join. If there's anything, but also being like, no, you have things to wrap up to you. Like maybe you're doing a virtual event of some sort, or there's an event nearby where they live. You're welcome to join. We're so excited for you to come. So it is the communication, but it's from an early point on, making sure that they're starting to connect. And this goes back to like the getting acclimated to culture and building relationships takes time. So the more you can do that earlier on, the better.
Awesome. And I would just want to read out what Susan wrote, because I think that's a great way to wrap up this entire piece too. Remember to be kind and compassionate when it comes to communication throughout the process, because it's exciting, but can also be a wee bit scary for new hires, which I think is totally true. Awesome. So thank you, everyone. As we're wrapping up, I just want to launch this poll really quickly. Let me find it. Here we go. Awesome. So if you could let us know on a scale of 1 to 10, how valuable was the content in this webinar? We're always looking for ways to improve our community events or our sessions here. So I just appreciate any feedback that you're willing to give us. And if there was something that stood out to you today about the content, please feel free to share it in the chat and let us know. It just helps create some fodder for upcoming events, so we know what's kind of resonating at the moment. Awesome. And as people are voting on that, I'm sure you've noticed how passionate all of our panelists are on the topic of hiring and onboarding and just, creating a great experience overall for employees. And so now I'd like to pass things off to them to share a little bit more about the work that their organizations do in the realm of hiring and onboarding. So Jason, I'll kick it off to you first.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. Just in summary, as I was mentioning up front, with Bucketlist Rewards, we can help you recruit and retain and engage your staff. We can help you lower turnover as much as 40% and drive up engagement with peer-to-peer programs with fantastic rewards. And if you're interested, I'd encourage you to click yes. And that includes if you're interested in strategies or just seeing how the platform works. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us today.
And now I'll flip it over to Dan, I believe, who is going to share a bit more about Deel.
Yeah, great to be on. I'm Dan Taylor. I'm on the partnerships team here at Deel. So it's been awesome working with this team. And Ida has represented our company really well. But just to give you a brief overview of what Deel is, we're an end-to-end HR software tool. We really differentiate ourselves by helping people grow and expand internationally. So if your company is looking to bring somebody on in a country where you don't currently have a presence or an entity, Deel can help you do that through usage of our employer of record software. We can enable people to hire contractors, and we have entities in over 100 different countries around the world. So we make it really fast, really easy, enable companies to find the best talent in their field, regardless of where they're located geographically. We also have a great HRIS software, and it's actually available for free for companies of less than 200. So it's a great option when you're looking at ways to manage your HRIS. Global payroll, we make it easy to pay your employees around the world. Once again, that's in over 100 different countries. So we're really focused on helping companies get up and running, available to companies as small as they come, or as large up into the enterprise size. So feel free to reach out. You can see my email is listed on this slide, or reach out through any of our partners, and we're happy to talk to you about Deel and how to get up and running with Deel if that's something that could be helpful to you.
Can I share a mini story on Deel as well, Dan, if that's okay?
Of course.
So we first moved to Deel because we had a fantastic long-term employee who worked with us moving to a different country. We're headquartered in Canada. He was moving back home to the UK. I love this guy. His name's Jack. And he's like, unless I can stay an employee here, I don't know if I can continue the relationship. And we ended up selecting Deel to streamline that process, and it was such a breeze. Like the amount of time and effort of getting set up and paying him as a full-time employee in the UK would have been extremely difficult, but we had Deel, which made it just like a breeze. We got him set up, and then later on, because he's a full-time employee as well, he's able to qualify for a mortgage. So like we're able to keep a great employee, we're able to help him buy a home, all because of Deel. And then since then, it's just made it a breeze to recruit internationally. So I'm a huge fan of Deel. I'd encourage like everybody to check it out if you're not using it today. It's such a cool product.
That's awesome. I love that story. That's perfectly a great example of what we're trying to do. Just help people, bring their employees on regardless of the location.
Yeah, I third that. So I second that. Thank you.
Thank you all. And last but not least, pass it to Natasha.
Yes, so JazzHR is a powerful, user-friendly applicant tracking system. It's really purpose-built to help growing businesses exceed their recruiting goals. So back to those earlier points of making sure that you don't have that cumbersome application process, making sure that it is user-friendly, clear instructions, both for the user, your candidate, and for you, your business. Don't spend a ton of time trying to figure out your application process. Brand like JazzHR will really just make that a smooth process for you. So thank you all so much for being here and for listening to us. This was fantastic.
Thank you. And now for the moment you've all been waiting for, here are the professional development credits. So we have the HRCI one and the SHRM one both on screen. I'll paste them into the chat box so y'all can have it, and it'll also be sent out over email. But I know we have about 2 minutes left, so I'd love to see if we can get to one Q&A that came in during this session. And so we have one from Renee. It's about insights or thoughts on using predictive analytics to drive culture transformation. Jason, Ida, and Natasha, any of you would like to tackle this one? I know we talked before about data helping with
I think one of the things we piloted and tested early on was looking at, and you can do this now, so for predictive analytics, look at if you ask a question early on, right when they start, and then look at how they're performing later. You can start to see how did they, like, what was their feedback initially, or what was kind of the hiring manager's assessment initially, and then how was their performance. And so that's going to start to allow you to see, like, okay, are we seeing a trend in terms of certain skills or ways that this person was brought on board that we can use and leverage early on when we're, whether it's around culture or something like this. So I think it's point here is like doing kind of like a beginning, survey when someone first starts, and then looking at where they're at from a performance standpoint later.
Yeah, I agree with that so much. And just jumping on and expanding on that a little bit, I also, once you do have those analytics and those baselines of, you know, what did someone say when they started? How is their experience going? How are they engaging, or how are they performing? You can also look at those trends on a bigger level. I love analytics. So start looking at people in that entire area for full teams, departments. What does that look like? And it can really help you just identify where some of your strengths are in your areas of opportunity. So such a great way to really use the numbers in front of you to continue to build culture.
It might go without saying, but I'll just say it, like, if you don't have some sort of engagement survey or culture survey that you're doing, like, implement that, because that's where you can start over time to see trends.
Awesome. Well, we're at the hour mark on now, so I feel like we got through a lot today, which is good. I'll just add one last thing before wrap up, because I saw some questions coming in. Yes, the slide deck will be made available. We'll be sending it out with the recording after the event sometime over the next few days. So stay tuned. You'll hear from us again. And I just want to thank all of you again for your time today. It was super great to have you all join us. Before we log off, any last things you want to add, panelists?
No, it was just a pleasure to connect with everybody virtually, and it was a pleasure getting to chat with the panelists here today. I feel like I learned a bunch by being in your guys' presence. So thanks for all the information. That was awesome.
I agree. I got a lot from the participants too. So thanks for being engaged through this.
Yes, thank you all so much. I definitely took a few notes from both the panelists and from the chat. So looking forward to dig into that even more.